Yes, a guy who's been absolutely buzzing to do one of these for years. So finally let him on. Chris Sutton, how you doing?
Yeah, thanks. Really,
What a hero, isn't it?
really excited to be here, guys.
What tempted you in the end?
What tempted me in the end?
What got you on?
Oh no, I mean, but my son's listened to your podcast avidly. I've got other things to do. Not that I've never listened to it. I saw Darren O'D spout off about us and
But
Charlie.
in a good way, though, no?
No, nice way. Yeah, I mean, I looking back, I'd take those guys, that era, your era. Really, I'd take a lot of credit really for the fact that so many of your era went on to prove me wrong.
Well, so what you say, like toughened us up? I would say you are toughened it. It was a laugh, though,
I think so. Yeah. And that was similar. Like when I started off at Norwich City, I was in awe of the first team players, but they were nice. There's Robert Fleck, who used to play at Rangers, unfortunately for him. But sort of took us under the wing, and a lot of banter. Sort of, it was all sort of nice and light-hearted. The sort of Charlie Mulgrew, I mean, it's true. I mean, I did used to say to Charlie, when you're working at McDonald's,
I got that one off you.
Make sure you give my kids extra chips.
Can you remember him as a player?
No, do you know what? No, I can. But the thing I remember about you is your hair.
The hair,
you were like Marge off The Simpsons, weren't you? That's what I remember.
Yeah.
But people talked about you. I never saw it, but people sort of talked. But we never really, in fairness, trained together.
He taught us, you said you trained him for the first time.
I trained him just at the end when it was Gordon Strachan.
Yeah.
You were kind of coming at your end of your time. I was starting to train with the first team. But
not the end of my career time, but the end of my Celtic time.
Career.
I think we all had a sort of soft spot for you guys, really.
Because you did slaughter us, but then, mate, I remember being in the Lexus a couple of times. You gave us lift to training and a lift back for training.
And I used to say, didn't I, if you play well in training, you train well, you can drive the Lexus back to the club or something which you never.
I used to say, if you work really, really hard, I mean really, really hard, you can maybe drive a car like this one day.
It was an awful car as well, wasn't it?
It wasn't nice, the black Lexus. I know. I thought better. You and Tom were quite. I thought you and Tom were good with us. Took an interest, slaughtered us. But we loved that as kids, eh?
I honestly think when a first team player does that, as if they know you and they care, at least care for you. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that. See if you walk in and they says it and like you don't feel a part of it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Another one was you handing it the mail. Better get used to that because you'll be working in the world. Good times, sir. So your youth career, Norwich.
Yeah.
You were a cricketer as well as a kid, weren't you?
Yeah, you've done your research, haven't you? Well, actually, I was okay at schoolboy level football. Went for trials at Norwich. The centre of excellence would have been gone, wouldn't they? When you were sort of you're looking at me
excellence
like I'm an
was
idiot.
never credited to us.
That was I was never excellent, and they sort of kicked us out of there when I was 12. So I liked my cricket. My dad was a big influence on my football career. He was a school teacher, but I used to play cricket, football and cricket, that's what it was. So I used to play them sort of an equal measure. Now you have to choose, don't you? The seasons overlap so much. And actually, in my last school year, I've got two elder sisters and elder brother. I was the only one of the family to fail an exam. I only failed, I think, 2 GCSEs, and my dad says, you're going to have to leave school and go and get a job. So I got a job as a clerk at Norfolk County Council. And but in that time before I actually got the job, I got another trial at Norwich City, did well in the sort of local county cup competition, scored a hat-trick in the semi-final, hat-trick in the final. Norwich gave us a short trial period, 2 weeks. This was right at the end of the season, and then gave us a 2-year YTS, and then the old apprenticeship, and then within that 2 years, I was in Norwich City's first team.
See that, was it when you went into the first team, was it intimidating in the changing room with the senior players? Yeah,
look, I mean, actually going into the club was intimidating. I mean, I was brought up in a sort of little village just outside Norwich, and because I'd been released at 12 from Norwich, most of the other boys who I'd gone back in with, they'd been part of the schoolboy system. So when I went back in, they were all sort of together and a clique, and I was an outsider, and that's the way it's remained throughout my career.
I was just going to say that, it's stuck. So did you clean boots and that? Because I obviously remember doing the big Val sports.
Used to clean boots.
Can't imagine you cleaning boots.
No, but I used to like all that sort of stuff. We used to have to sweep the changing rooms, mop the changing rooms, pick the players' kit up.
Slips up.
So it slips up. You never used to
I've picked
do
a
that.
few years up, I have not.
Skids?
Skid marks.
That's the skiddies, aye. Who was
Still do.
Gives us 50 quid a week to fix his slips up.
who was the big players in that dressing room?
What do you know?
Norwich have never had big players.
No, we did.
Norwich have never had big players, have they?
We do know, but it's just.
So when were you? What year were you
91.
born? 91. Well, 92, 93, the inaugural Premier League season. Norwich City nearly won the Premier League. But we like the season after we finished third, we beat Bayern Munich in the Olympic Stadium. But no, it was a big deal. We had a really good team. Jeremy Goss scored the. Jeremy Goss?
Cracking player.
I know Jeremy Goss.
Where did he play?
Player.
Dear
I was
me.
2 at this time.
Yeah. The beauty of it was for me back then is you could see a pathway. They're not the big squads like they are now, where there are, you have the under 23s, you have 25 man first team squads. This is down south. It's a little bit different, up in Scotland. But if you were doing well in the youth team, there was sort of probably 6 or 7 boys on the YTS in my year. Same the year above. Then you had your young pros. If you were doing well in the youth team, you get picked in the reserves. The reserves was a really good standard where we'd play the likes of Arsenal and Tottenham, and I'd gone from 16 playing schoolboy football to then going into the reserves in a short space of time. A couple of months later, playing against the likes of Paul Davis, Paul Walsh, Vinnie Sandwich, hardened, experienced pros, and you had to learn quick. And then literally, I was okay at centre half, but because there was an injury in the first team at Norwich, it was who's doing well in the reserves, and then you sort of just slung in, and it's sink or swim. So it's all about really getting the opportunity. The truth is, had I been at a Manchester United maybe, or an Arsenal,
Celtic,
or a
big
Liverpool,
club,
or a
came through at Celtic like me, it's
yeah,
tougher.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That may not have been there, the pathway.
Yeah. Well, I've read a few things that you've done, and coaches were a big thing in your life, but your dad as well. Was your dad quite tough on you?
Yeah, tough love. I've got no doubt that I'd still be working at Norfolk County Council if my dad hadn't influenced me in the way that he did. Massive on training, and those after I got released from Norwich, those years, 13, 14, 15, 16, he used to just, I used to do a lot of training with him. A lot of running. Now, I don't have to say, I was never the quickest. Clearly wasn't the quickest. I wasn't the best. I never had the best endurance, certainly when I was younger. But those years, the training which he, I won't say made me do, but he did kick me up the backside and really accentuate the point that I needed to train and to try as hard as I possibly could. When I actually went back in at Norwich, I always thought I had the edge on the boys who had gone up through the schoolboy system, because I was hungrier than them, and I went back, and in the pre-season, I mean, it would have been the same at Celtic with you. The youth team coach, was always make sure you finish first. Make sure you beat the first team in running, and I hit the ground running. I was a quite a good athlete by then, and that was always down to my dad. We used to go and visit my grandparents at Lowestoft when they were alive, and I used to think, it'd be nice going to see my nanny and granddad, and he used to run the bollocks off us up the slopes and the sand dunes.
Yeah.
But it's all, it's all for a reason. But he was a, professional himself, and sort of knew what it took. Now, through those years, he, probably didn't have any idea whether I'd make it or not, but that put me in a really good place. And without that. Without that backing from him and that base fitness which I had, there's no way I'd have been a professional.
John must have missed all that training.
John was the golden boy. He got the balls out for John, didn't he?
That worked, didn't it? Better with juggling balls with John, wasn't it? That's
harsh.
You coach his kids as well.
But
He's a hero. One of the nicest guys you'd ever meet.
Much nicer than him, isn't he?
Aye. He's a very different, isn't he?
Well, yeah, it was 10 years between us. John was an afterthought. He just appeared one Christmas. Boxing Day. John, come and meet your new brother.
Did you never take him out and show him a wee bit of a few skills or two?
No, I was winning the Premier League. when John was.
He's back at it.
Love it. See, when you're coming through Norwich, did you have a first team player that you kind of modelled your game on, that you looked up to?
Will Fox.
How could I model the game on Rural Fox, a tricky winger?
Unbelievable, isn't it?
But I was lucky at Norwich. I was really lucky at Norwich because I went into an experienced first team, although you don't know any of the players. But good.
You're not happy with that, are you?
No, it's up to you. You want to neglect your research, that's fine by me. But they were the likes of Ian Crook. Ian Crook used to smoke 40 cigarettes a day. You wouldn't have heard of him, of course. Couldn't head, couldn't tackle. Josh would have heard of him, I'm pretty sure. Brilliant technician, brilliant passer. Came to Norwich from Spurs. I think the likes of Glenn Hoddle, kept him out of the team. I think we can all understand that. Yeah. But the season where Mike Walker realised that I was a liability at the back, where we finished third in the league, had a negative goal difference, he moved me up front the next season. And a number of the goals I scored that season were just off a little free kick routine where he'd put the ball down, would make eye contact, I'd make the run, he'd put it on a plate and I'd score, and then I'd neglect him and run off and celebrate myself. And but that was down to him. And then Rural Fox, you mentioned him, he was a brilliant footballer. He was my mate as well. But these players taught me how to play. In off the line, round the corner, get in line, all stuff like that. It's a really good upbringing. At Norwich, and good coaches. We had a coach called David Williams. I don't expect you would have heard of him. Did a lot of keep ball stuff, possession stuff, a lot of twin striker play, and it was. It was really good, and we were always, hit with the stick and, taught to be hungry. Mike Walker was our reserve team manager, and it was, it was a lot of sort of dog-eat-dog situation. You got to keep pushing, you got to keep trying, and you get what you deserve.
Do you need to be really tough as a kid to come through?
Do you know what? Honestly,
I think that's overrated a bit.
No, I don't know. It's each to their own, isn't it? Everybody, has a different sort of character, different personality. When I first went in at Norwich, there was a lot of, you're in youth teams as well, and there's a lot of sort of fights and things. And I used to think when I first went in, just leave me alone, I don't want to be a part of that. And then
so you're one of the main character, Chris, now?
No, because I'd come in from the outside. Yeah. So how do you get respect? You get respect from your performances, on the pitch, the way you train. And then I just learned to become a complete arsehole like everybody else, and then I overtook them.
Brilliant. So 25 goals that season off of free kicks, as you've just said. Was there a lot of offers coming in after that?
Was there a what?
Yeah. A lot of offers. Did you have an agent at this time?
There's a guy called Eric Hall, who you
won't know, who
was my dad. He was my agent. He was my agent for a while. He's passed away now, I think. Eric. He was one of the big agents at the time. Monster. He was known, but my dad put a stop to that. He was a larger than life character.
Why did your dad put a stop to it? Sorry,
because he didn't believe in agents. No, that was his opinion. I mean, my views on agents are that if the player is happy with their particular deal, then that's fine. There are good agents, there are bad agents. I'm not saying Eric was a bad agent. It's my dad put a stop to it, and I just did what my dad told me.
Even when you're scoring 25 goals in the league, you're still listening to your dad?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My dad passed away at Boxing Day, and he was unwell the last sort of decade. But I always, after games, always phone my dad. It was a little bit like Martin O'Neill. I can't remember the amount of times that he actually said I played well. It was always, you need to do better at this, But that was good. That's probably why I'm such a miserable fucker. But that was I sort of like that. I can't ever remember coming off a pitch and thinking, that I performed perfectly. And I always used to use that as I don't know, what you guys saw. I always used to use that as a driving force and sort of think,
I always say, because I've said that loads of times, because of the way you were with us and Lenny and stuff like that, the rest of my career, I know it's a shite career, but it was a breeze after that, because you could take criticism.
Yeah.
It was installed into you as a young kid, and
that's gone now, though, isn't it? That's gone for the game.
Has it? I don't know. I mean, for example, like the young lads at Celtic coming through were, when they'd have been a bit older than you, McGeady and Maloney. Now, both really talented boys, weren't they? Yeah. But they both wanted the ball for themselves, and we used to just batter them in training. And actually, you know, maybe that helped to, you know, eventually, I mean, I wouldn't call it, you know, I certainly wouldn't call it bullying in any respect, but we used to make it quite clear that they should release the ball a bit quicker. But that's part of the learning curve.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, I don't see that as a, you know, as an issue. And then, you know, the truth is some people, you know, as I said, different personalities, and you know, with you boys, we knew you could take it. And I'm not looking for an out here, but you know, if we knew it was going to affect somebody in a particular way, then you know that wouldn't happen. And that's where we had, you know,
it was more the lively ones that you would do it to, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you know that's why we had a pretty solid dressing room. And you know, Darren O'D was
he deserved that. He deserved it.
I mean, Darren, I once drove. This is how thick.
He stole a career, Darren O'D, didn't he?
Is that thick? I once drove him back to his digs in East Kilbride, and he actually didn't know where they were. Darren, strange boy.
And then decided to go to Blackburn, big man.
Yeah, went to Blackburn.
Wonder why?
Cash.
Jack Walker, innit? He's not went for the love of the game. He's went for that.
How dare you? Well, Norwich. Well, the reason I left Norwich is I'd signed a new deal just before Christmas at Norwich, and the chairman, Robert Chase, had said that they're going to loosen the purse strings. We've just beaten Bayern Munich in Europe, although you weren't aware of it. And
yeah, actually looks a bit German, didn't he, Boris Becker?
I wouldn't say Boris Becker. Tommy Coyne. You're more Tommy Coyne. Yeah, a bit like Tommy Coyne, doesn't he?
Oh, sure, that's a good.
Yeah,
Tommy Coyne's quite a good-looking guy.
Is it? Yeah. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So I said, you're probably not interested, but I signed a new deal at Norwich, and the chairman
said that though, didn't he? That's too much now. That I'm not interested.
You were one of his heroes growing up. He was a massive Celtic fan.
Really, I didn't know that.
Well, more Larson, but you were kind of one of his heroes.
They boots when it was the tongues that put me off.
So I signed a new deal. Should we just get Norwich over with because you're not interested?
No, I don't care.
But signed a new deal, and the chairman said we're going to loosen the purse strings. Mike Walker cleared off to Everton 2 weeks later. They sold Royal Fox to Newcastle, so you know I wanted to leave.
So did you make it clear that you wanted to leave?
Yes, I went to see the chairman and said I want to go. I actually held a press conference at Norwich because what the chairman had said, I need to remember this rightly, what the chairman had said is that if I wasn't there the next season, then he wouldn't be there. So he'd said that publicly. Anyway, I'd gone and signed for Blackburn, and that was for £5 million. That was the fee at that particular time. And so I had to sit in a press conference with the chairman, having already signed for Blackburn, and the chairman said that they wouldn't sell me unless they got £5 million, and I'd already signed for Blackburn. So there's an odd press conference.
Were you not a Norwich fan?
I'm a fan of football. I was a Nottingham Forest fan when I was younger because I was born in Nottingham, but I'm sure you knew that.
Yeah.
And then. And then I was brought up in Norfolk.
Why Blackburn though? Sorry, why Blackburn?
Why Blackburn?
Because
Blackburn were pushing. I could have gone to Manchester United.
Wait a minute, and you went to Blackburn? I didn't get this. You and Shearer. Why would you not back Man United?
Kenny Douglas.
I could have gone to. I could have gone to Spurs. I could have gone to Arsenal. I could have gone anywhere at that particular time. I mean, they were all Liverpool. Roy Evans had just taken over at Liverpool.
You went to Blackburn Rovers. What does
dare
a stadium?
you?
Was it 15,000 stadium?
What was the reason?
What was
you know the reason? I just told you.
Do you not look at league tables? Do you not smell where success could possibly be? Blackburn were the up and coming team. I'm sure you would have researched Blackburn. They were signing sort of all Jack Walker, and you know you talk about football club owners. He was a local guy, self-made millionaire through steel, loved the town, built the stadium, wanted to give the town something back. I think that's incredible ownership. Now people would look and say, well, you know, a large part of that was Jack's money, which I'm not going to say bought the title. You want to say that? I can see it. You do. You probably will say that later.
I can smell it.
But
I can smell it coming.
It's not that easy. So then you get the right man in place, Kenny Dalglish, and you know Blackburn had gone close to the season before. They just needed that final piece in the jigsaw.
Can you remember that first chat with Kenny?
Yeah, I remember him calling me at home in Norwich, and you know, talking about Yeah, as in, I mean, you know,
he's a legend, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. You know, in awe of him as a player, as sort of everybody in the country was, you know, at that particular time, and where Blackburn were going. But I liked Blackburn. I liked the club. I liked the fact that that most of the board were sort of local businessmen. It felt like a friendly club. Going from Norwich to Blackburn was sort of night and day. Down south, you know, all the Norwich boys were saying, "Oh, it rains rains all the time up north," and what have you. But I liked the club.
Is it true you had a night out the day before you signed?
Yeah, that's the only research I've done. Yeah, I got arrested. Yeah.
That's all I'm interested in. Who were you out with?
I was out with Brian Gunn and a few of the other. I can't really
Brian
remember.
Gunn, goalkeeper. Great research.
Yeah, Scotland goalkeeper.
Also was the Norwich manager at one stage.
How many caps for Scotland?
I think he's got about 17 caps for Scotland.
3, I think.
He was the Norwich manager at a later stage.
Yeah,
he also was a comms guy as well, so there you go, there's a bit of research there.
That's good, yeah. No, as I was out with him and I got led astray as you do as a young guy, and I dived into a convertible Mini head-on and bent the indicator a little bit, and then I went to a nightclub and upstairs, and then the police came in, and I went out the fire exit and jumped in a taxi to go home, and then 3 police cars around the taxi. And
what had you done in the nightclub? Like?
Nothing in the nightclub, just in the car. Just bent the indicator when I dived in.
And 3 police came for that?
Yeah, there's not a lot happens in Norfolk.
Because you're a big name, mate.
So I got put in the cells.
Are we in the cells?
Yeah, put in the cells, yeah.
And did you think the move could be off?
No, all I was worried about was my dad. I hadn't really thought about the move. I just kept thinking, my dad's going to kill me.
You can't get any contact with him, could you?
No, you're allowed one call.
One call?
Listen, you must have been arrested. You must know that procedure. Given that you're innocent.
So did Liverpool, did Blackburn bring
Blackburn away,
did Blackburn, because it was Kenny Douglas, Liverpool, did Blackburn bring that up the next day, or was it?
Kenny laughed it off.
Oh, good.
So,
what was his management style like?
Well, having said that, I'd already signed for Blackburn, hadn't I? So there's nothing he could do about it, really. He couldn't attack me because I'd had the press conference at Norwich.
Oh, okay.
So, but he was fine. You know, young men, we make mistakes. We all make mistakes.
That's it. It's a bit learning for them.
What was Kenny's management style like?
I really liked Kenny. I think he was similar to Martin O'Neill. He knew how he wanted to set the team out. He knew what was required from each player. He wasn't a big talker, but when he spoke, you listened. He knew every player, every single player in the Premier League inside out. Talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, what to think, how to think.
Did they coach though? On the training pitch?
Yeah, at times. And Ray Harford, who's passed away now, was his sidekick. He was the one who would take training. Kenny would delegate. And we were 4-4-2. Very reliant on our wingers. We knew our strengths. I mean, Manchester United had an unbelievable team back then, and that was just the start of their success. But we were very, very streetwise. Our team. We knew what our strengths were. Our wingers worked like Trojans. We were very solid at the back. We had a really good goalkeeper, Tim Flowers, and we weren't frightened to get balls into the box. You know, myself and
you're downplaying it. Right? You're talking about the midfield. You and Shearer won the league. Let's be honest.
No, I definitely disagree with that.
Oof.
Because
who was it? Wilcox and Rippler on either wing.
You'll have to get Alan on here, but I don't know that that's possible or not.
He wants to come on, but we're just kind of waiting. We're waiting.
But it'd tell you the same. The wingers, were so important. Tim Sherwood was a really good captain, good midfielder, and the other midfielder alongside Tim was
Flatcroft.
No, Mark Atkins, who was the one everybody forgets. Mark Atkins.
Wow.
And Atkins. And Kenny used to say he's the best finisher at the club, Mark Atkins. But good player. And we started the season and we were absolutely flying, and then the confidence just grew. We knew we could score goals. We were solid defensively. It was only sort of at the latter end of the season where we started to sort of.
Colin Hendry was trying his best to lose it, wasn't he?
Well, he was all right. Yeah, we sort of lost away a little bit, but none of us had. We were quite a young team. We didn't have any. Well, we had Tony Gale, who was 35, who played the first half of the season. But other than that, we didn't have any sort of players who had been there and done it, which is why, when the wheels started to come off towards the end, we're looking at Kenny, and that's where Kenny.
What did he do well at that stage of the season?
Well, he sort of calmed us down. settled us down, and eventually we got over the line. It was the last of the 42 game seasons. And bearing in mind the 2 games against Manchester United, I don't know whether you've seen the games. We were absolutely robbed. First one 1-0 up, and Henning Berg gets sent off. Never a penalty. Candid scores the penalty. They go on to win 4-2, and then we equalise at Old Trafford. Last minute, Shearer gets up over Roy Keane, heads it back across. Tim Sherwood scores. Goal disallowed. I mean, they had it all going their own way. And then, of course, the last day. I mean, that's one of the great ends to Premier League seasons, where I still watch that game, Upton Park, where Andy Cole goes through in the last seconds of the game, and McCloskey saves it with his legs. Incredible. So I keep thinking he's going to
Anfield.
Yeah. Actually getting beat didn't matter if we didn't win the game and United won, and then that would have been it. But we got there in the end.
Aye. Need to know about him and Shearer straight away.
Do you know what I want to know? Who was the big characters in that changing room?
Tim Sherwood.
Sherwood was a legend.
Yeah, good. He was he was an excellent player, but he was he's a young man at that particular time. It was interesting because he was one who everybody looked up to. Of course, your captain's I don't know nowadays actually whether the captain's such a big deal. It did feel that back then, and of course Shearer, sort of his mental strength. I mean, his goals that season. I mean, he's an absolute machine. Sort of low back left, just pinging him into the corner, good in the air. Similar to Larsson in terms of wasn't the biggest, but he was the best in the air. Phenomenal spring. I played against him as a centre half Norwich, and he was Southampton centre forward. I think we drew the game 0-0, but I remember sort of trying to nick in front of him and him holding him. I was thinking, he's strong, really strong. And that was, Southampton he did okay, but he wasn't really prolific. Went to Blackburn, I think the first game he scored a couple of goals against Crystal Palace, and he just kicked on. And his numbers throughout his career were ridiculous. Bearing in mind he had two serious knee injuries. I mean, incredible, and he's still the top.
How did you get on off the field? Do you need to be like that with a strike partner?
Not really. I mean, look, I'd gone there when I was, I'd have been 19, 20. And the striker the previous season was a guy called Mike Newell. You'd know Mike, he played up at Aberdeen, but good player was Mike. And they used to travel in together from Formby every day with Tim Flowers, the goalkeeper. And basically I'd gone there to take Mike's place. So maybe I overthought things, and they must have talked about me. I don't know what we said, but he was always all right. But I never understood. I used to knock around with Ian Pearce, who was a sort of
West Ham centre half.
And he used to live near me, and we used to Fulham as well. You knew that though. So we used to knock around together, and then, but me and Alan got on fine. A lot was made about that, but because you're sort of partner someone, it doesn't mean you have to be best mates.
I can imagine that changing was very fiery though.
Because of the likes of David Batty.
I can see a lot of training fights happening there.
No, look, I think Batty
was in the game,
the Champions League game.
Do you want to go into that a wee bit for us?
Spartak Moscow was a -15, and then they just started lumping
to warm themselves up,
to warm
themselves up.
Just
there was no in it, but fighting your own team, I never like that. You never see us two fighting.
Never.
You know what I mean? Don't like that.
I mean, Lasso was a sort of fiery character, and Batty was tough.
Batty was brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah, bite and snap, and Batty probably did what everybody else wanted to do and sort of smash Lasso.
Was training like that on a regular? Was it like that on a regular basis in training?
No, yes and no. But you've played.
Most teams, yeah.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Whatever people bring things in training from the home life, whatever. Somebody's aggravated as a challenge. Somebody says something, catches you at the wrong moment. I mean, the amount of people who used to sort of swing for me. I mean, probably every player at Celtic would have swung for me at one time or another.
Can you want to swing back, or would you just wind them up and then walk away?
The only one I had a tussle with Oliver Tebley once, and the lads.
It's a bad one to pick Oliver Tebley.
I'd have ripped his head off. The lads. It was one of those. I was pretending to fight back.
Please hold me back.
The only person who ever actually caught me at Celtic was Jim Henry. Jim.
Fitness coach, big boy.
Yeah, And I liked Jim, and he was, you know Jim, don't you?
Aye.
I mean, he's just chiseled, absolutely chiseled. Jim was, and he used to help me up in the gym, and you know, he's very well. He would have helped you and squats and bench press. Do you work out?
Do you remember at the start when he said about we wouldn't keep going at the same guy if we're struggling?
No, it's just us. No. It's just he's got his top on. So anyway, so Jim is standing. We used to have the covers, the big black covers when it was frosty at Barrowfield.
Yeah.
So he's standing there one morning, and you know, I really like Jim, and he's talking to Lenny and Tomo and Henrik and Johan, but he's standing right by the cover. So I'm thinking this is a great opportunity. So I take a run up and I knock Jim over this cover, and he's like topples over. I mean, I've hit him really hard, right? And all the lads are loving it, and I'm thinking, you know, this is great, whatever. And anyway, Jim gets up, right, and he starts to run after me, and he's limping, Jim, and he's saying, "I'm gonna fucking kill you." And I'm running off, and he's trying to catch me, and I'm and all that. He says, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," and I'll start to get a bit nervous. And anyway, about 4 days later, every time I see Jim, I'm with someone, just thinking because he's gonna kill me. And anyway, I think things are amicable, and we're walking where the gym was. It was upstairs at Celtic, so we walked through reception into that little corridor where you get the stairs up to the gym. And I turn around to talk to Jim, and he just goes, and he punches me in the side of the head, and I go, a split second to make a decision. I go straight down. He says, "You ever do that again?" He says, "I need an operation on my knee." He says, "I'll fucking kill you." And oh, sorry, Jim, sorry. And that was it.
Wait, did you shit yourself?
Yeah,
He was an animal. Jim Henry was an animal.
We wouldn't have been here.
See, back in the days,
I never knocked him over again.
See that kind of era where you won the Premier League that year, was it still a drinking culture back then? Or had that gone? How did Kenny Dalglish like that?
No, but I mean, look, this sounds really bad, but I didn't think that the drinking was a major problem as long as you trained hard, you know, at the right time. And when I first went into Norwich, you know, I'd never touched a drop of alcohol before, you know, I was 16, and there was a massive drinking culture. You get on the coach. I mean, we used to, you know, Norwich is miles from anywhere. Manchester, Liverpool, London. Used to just big crates of lagers on the way home and fish and chips.
Professional that, mate, innit?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, 5 hours, 6 hours, and everybody used to just get off the coach belooted and then go into Norwich. It's incredible.
But surely that wasn't the case at Blackburn when you're going for the Premier League.
We sort of had a few, but not, it wasn't. But you know, there's a time. There's a time to have a bit. I mean, look, the truth is you know, it was far too excessive back then. Absolutely. You know, players nowadays don't, you know, a lot of them don't touch a drop.
Did you get a beer with Kenny Dalglish?
Yeah, I mean, a bit like Alan, we weren't sort of close, but I always liked I mean, Kenny was a bit aloof. You can't have your manager sort of close to you.
Yeah. I think there's merit meets eye with him and Shearer Joe. I think there's a bit more that's went on we used to, and you're not letting us on yet.
But I think it's two big personalities. 22 goals a season before.
Not really, no.
Were you always in competition with your strike partner in terms of goals at that age, at a young age?
No, I sort of wanted to be the best, but look, it's still the same. Now, I understand pecking orders, you know, and you know, that's the thing about football. I don't have a problem if someone's playing in the team who was who's better than me. That's not an issue, and you absolutely know it. The problem comes is when you're dropped and they put someone shit in, don't they? You know, that's a sort of problem. And then, so I was always quite reasonable. You know, I knew when I was playing well, I could take criticism. There wasn't many times, honestly, where I'd really argue back with the manager over something. I think you play badly, you sit there, you take it, you keep your mouth shut, and you try and do better next time.
Yeah. On that title race, did you think Man United had started to crack when Cantona Kung Fu kicked the fan? Surely you are thinking they've gone here.
Did you see the Cantona?
Where were you sitting when the news broke? I can't remember now.
I can't remember, but I saw Cantona said the only thing he regrets is not kicking him harder. But no, I mean, a lot is still made of that. I think. So was that the turning point? No, I don't think so. It was what it was. He did. He did what he did. Was the punishment too harsh? Some people think yes. Some people think no. I mean, Blackburn had lost Shearer for a large part of the previous season, I think.
That's right.
And finished close. So you can't think like that. And then you look at the refereeing decisions as well, which had happened. With 42 games, you deserve to win.
Right, nerves on the last day though. You spoke a wee bit about it, but you didn't seem the type that would get nervous, but you must have been that day.
Yeah, as because we were in front. So to come from behind and then nick it would have been an incredible feeling. We were 9 points clear, 6 games to go. I'd scored a QPR, Loftus Road. We'd won 1-0, and I thought that was it. And then we lost to Manchester City, who were in the relegation zone. That's good players.
Yeah.
And then we had the game before the end of the season was at Newcastle. And we beat them 1-0. Tim Flowers was incredible. Shearer scored a trademark header far post, and we were so lucky. We were so lucky to beat them. And that was where Sir Alex has sort of said, they needed a Devon lock, and and put massive sort of try and mind games pressure. We weren't. You're not worried or fazed about that. It's just the thought of what if. So in the end, we get over the line, however we do it. There was that sort of brief period, it felt like eternity, when Redknapp scores, still the game going on at West Ham, and then finally the final whistle's blown, and there's sort of half a minute, I think, and then we knew from the reaction of the crowd, but it was just relief.
Did Kenny ever mention Ferguson's mind games to you? Would he ever speak about Ferguson?
Not really, but Kenny was brilliant himself in all the interviews. Used to just batter. Looking back, and that
too
program,
heavy, mate, isn't it?
I don't know if you saw the programme Fever Pitch the other night. Looking back, they were sort of sparring. It was good. And to be fair, and I can't remember at the time, but Sir Alex congratulated Blackburn, probably through gritted teeth. But you see the interview, and fair play. And some achievement really. What Blackburn actually did when you think about that United side, which they'd started to build through the 90s. They were the best ever Premier League team, I thought.
Yeah.
Do you think manager mind games actually work?
Not so much now. I think it's a very much tactical now, but probably back in the days, I would imagine so.
It depends whether you fall for it. What do you?
Remember Keegan? Remember Keegan?
Oh, Keegan cracked
But that's a lot of that is sort of passion. Passion, pride. You're caught in the moment. But as players. It's what you focus on. You wouldn't really focus on, you're not going to worry that Fergie says it's a, Devon Lock situation when you're going out about that particular comment. You're still trying to focus on the same thing. Maybe we lost a bit of confidence towards the end, which, happens.
When did you hear that they'd lost? Sorry, when?
So that was about 30 seconds later.
And just Kenny shouts on?
And then, no, not what you heard from the crowd, because people had radios back then. It's amazing. So
I wanted to ask you, was your dad there that day?
No.
You would have seen the house?
He'd have been at home.
And was he the first person you...
Did you phone him?
Yeah, I would have phoned him, yeah.
What a feeling that must be.
I think I missed a chance that day. I think he said I should have done
that. Oh, he never said it that day. You'd won the Premier League and he pulled you up for a chance.
I think he did, yeah.
That's what makes you the better though, doesn't it?
Of course, that's an elite mentality.
And Alan went home to Chris Sutton's fence. That's how he celebrated, yeah.
How was the rest of the team celebrations?
He went home to what?
To Chris Sutton's fence.
What? What's that?
That's what he said.
Went and fixed his
how are
fence?
you going to celebrate, Alan? He said, I'm going to Chris out my fence.
Oh, is that what type of guy he was like?
No, that was banter.
God, is that his banter, is it? How did you win the Premier League? That's part of in the dressing room.
That's part of you and Craig's,
isn't it? You should have been relegated to that.
That's part of you and Craig say that each other.
We were a few years later.
But see, at that stage, when you won the league that young, did you envisage your career going on to win Premier League after Premier League?
I didn't. To be honest, I didn't think of it like that. I was sort of happy, just happy in the moment, really. And then, obviously I thought maybe, we would kick on next season. Next season we had a disaster. Kenny went upstairs.
Why? Why did he
probably
go
upstairs? I don't know. That's a question you'd have to ask him, really. For whatever reason, we never really. Ray Harford took over. Always difficult.
Yes.
Always difficult as a coach stepping up, and I think we didn't recruit well in that summer, and that's something I think over the years you've seen with Sir Alex Ferguson's teams. Just some sort of crazy recruitment at times, and you'll sit there and sort of slightly baffled. But they've always strengthened well. Not that I'm comparing Blackburn to Manchester United, but we didn't sort of recruit well, and that affected us second season. I think we still ended up finishing 7th or 8th, but as a title defence, the truth is that's pretty awful.
And never challenged again, which is so strange, mate, isn't it?
Parks comes in after that, Roy Hodgson and Brian Kidd, the managers, eventually get relegated in 1999.
Yeah.
That's quite quick of a drop, isn't it?
Yeah, and Brian Kidd coming in.
Again, a coach.
Sir Alex's sidekick came in with a big reputation. It didn't have. He brought a lot of players in, tried to change up. I didn't play a lot in the second half of the season. I had a groin injury, and it just all sort of fell apart. And in the end, I didn't really want to leave Blackburn, but I sort of had to go in the end.
See, when things aren't going well, you've obviously been at a lot of successful clubs, but when it aren't going, what kind of player in the dressing room are you? Do you get on people, stay quiet, focus on yourself? No, but what kind of character are you when things aren't going well?
I think that I'm misunderstood. I think like at Celtic, for example, I always thought it was pretty fair. So when people like Neil Lennon were just shouting shit throughout the game, like whipping balls in around your throat and saying hold it up, if you sort of let him go with it once, let him get away with it once or twice, but then the third time I'd hit him with something back. But genuinely, I don't think players ever lack effort, but if something's going wrong, I mean, Didier Agat always used to hit the first man at crosses. He's a brilliant player, Didier Agat, but I didn't see the point in giving them a kicking, really. Maybe it's to think about this or, whatever, or if somebody doesn't, pass a ball, just, talk it through, really.
Yeah.
And I never really, I don't know, but I used to sometimes think, and I'm not including Neil in this, but sometimes think that the biggest shouters were
the ones that hate.
Were the sort of frauds at times. And before games, there are people who sort of shout. It's okay, you can encourage, but there's levels of encouragement.
Yeah.
But then Chelsea.
What an advantage.
Was it in the other clubs at the time?
We're not talking about that.
Do you like to talk about Chelsea?
No, again, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I could have gone to Manchester United again.
Yeah.
Mate, he's had a disaster.
I've never phoned anyone off the show, but you've not, Man United. So what, Alex Ferguson phoned you going, nah, I'm going to go to Chelsea?
What was it you didn't like about him?
No, what's Fergie done to you?
No, Chelsea I always like projects. That's why I like you two. So Chelsea was a little bit like Blackburn, but posher. And so, no, I fancied him. I really liked Vialli. Now, again, I don't know how much of him as a player you'd seen. He was an unbelievable player. His movement, and he was quite a young manager at Chelsea, and I quite fancied it going down. You looked at the players they had: Zola, Desailly, Leboeuf, Gus Poyet. Dennis Wise was a fiery character.
Was Lasso there?
Lasso was there. Yeah, I'd forgotten him. Thanks for that. It's the one thing you got right on the pod.
He is very forgettable on that Chelsea team, funny.
And then George Weir came later on, but he wasn't there at the start. So, it was good. But I don't, what happened at Chelsea happened. I signed a 6-year deal. Really unbelievable.
6 year?
6 year. On incredible money. Started badly. And for whatever reason, I never really recovered at Chelsea. I missed a couple of chances on my debut. In fairness, I probably, because I'd had the injury at Blackburn, I hadn't had probably the best pre-season, hadn't been sharp enough. But it was the first time in my career where I think I let things affect me.
Yeah,
and then I used to, I used to worry. And I think people have this sort of perception because, you've paid a few quid and, you don't care. Couldn't be further from the truth, really. And things just escalated. And the one thing you can't do as a striker, you can't hesitate. And that's something where the biggest issue for me at Chelsea, looking back, is that you hear strikers say that as long as I'm getting the chances, then it's not it's not an issue. I was in a position where I think I was hiding, looking back and hesitant and scared to miss. You can't do that.
No. And I can't let it slide, but just on knocking back Man United for a second, how did Alex Ferguson phone you up, ask you to come to Man United?
I don't think it was Sir Alex the second time, yeah. The first time was, 100% the second time, but they were in.
And
why do you look so surprised? I thought it was quite good.
No desire to go and sign for Man United?
No, not that particular
Under Ferguson,
time.
no?
I can't remember who the strikers were. I probably thought I wouldn't play. I don't know.
You and Keane would have had that. That would have been brilliant, wouldn't it? It was hated, we used to. Imagine him, the captain, shouting before the game.
He was it when he came to Celtic for a couple of weeks, didn't he? With
Did you go in there?
Yeah. I always liked Roy Keane. See, people, that's a sort of perception about him, I think. I like him as a pundit, but everybody sort of had standards, and looking at most of the things he sort of says, well, he loved his football, he expected people to train in a particular way, play in a particular way. Everybody can accept that you're going to have really bad moments, but you've got to give it all, your all, and that's always the type of character. I don't know him that well, but that was the type of character he was. He didn't come into Celtic screaming and shouting and the big I am. It was the opposite. He was always very sort of quiet and measured and respectful.
See, on Chelsea, was it a step up in terms of standards and training, facilities, stadiums?
No. We were training at the University of London, which is by Heathrow, so it wasn't a step up in terms of that. You can argue it's a step up in standard because the Blackburn team were falling away. But Chelsea were a side on the up. I think they'd had sort of relative success and they were building a strong team, but they wanted to make the next step and win the Premier League.
So when you're not playing well in games, is that then transfer to training? See, Monday to Friday, had your confidence gone in training as well?
Yeah, I think that was the worst period, which I went through, where everything else in my career had been on and up. Where for what I couldn't honestly put a finger on it. Why I lost confidence, why I let things, get to me. I was still trying, but it's probably that.
Did any of the big names come and talk to you, or were you just kind of left?
No, do you know what? Yeah, they did talk to me occasionally. Just said you're shite.
Did you feel that though? Because see, when I used to train with you, and you were having one, you fit. These think I am shit. Do you know what I mean? Did you get that feeling at Chelsea?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't worried. I've got to say, Vialli was very good. In many ways, I mean, he used to take me aside and sort of we used to do shooting sessions, whatever he used to think when I was smashing balls on the Heathrow Airport. I don't know, but he was very good, and he taught me a few things like with volleying, about sort of getting your hip up nice and high, and I knew it's a volley ball, of course, but just slowing everything down and the technique. And actually, one of the best goals I scored was against Juventus for Celtic, and that would have been down to that moment, slowing things down, hip up, hit it clean, not trying to hit it too hard. And he was very good. It just, for whatever reason, it didn't happen. For me, it got left out of the FA Cup final squad last game of the season. I don't think my attitude was necessarily right in the last week, and then so we had the conversation after. And the best thing for all parties was for me to go. Now I could have, I might have turned it round. That wouldn't have been impossible, but I think it was best. I actually played a bit better when George Weir came in.
How was he?
George Weir, he was incredible. I mean, he was an unbelievable player. He was probably coming towards the end of his career, but he had an enormous presence. But we had a good sort of relationship. George used to come around for tea and things. I used to sort of look after him.
George Weir used to come in at your house for tea?
Yeah.
What was you talking about?
Football.
Your first touch.
I'll take you to the back and...
We just used to... No, I named one of my pigs after George. We got on. I mean, he's now president of Liberia. Yeah. So, that was the sort of circles.
What did you cook George Weir for dinner?
Well, I don't think I cooked, but he used to come round a lot. He brought us a nice Versace bag and a baggy American tracksuit, which didn't suit me, like a basketball tracksuit for my birthday and things. He's a great guy.
Remember that goal he scored for? Do you remember that? For AC Milan?
Aye, ran by everybody.
His own box.
Yeah, corner, wasn't it? He was incredible. I mean, he was.
Was he a level above Zola's Desai's?
No, you can, I'm not going to say that. But he had he used to do the boxes. He used to make a funny little noise. You know, you do the boxes where he used to pretend to kick the ball and let it run through, but make a noise as well. And then everybody would look, and it used to go that way. And he used to just laugh, and it's quite funny. But it's a hell of an experience thinking about him coming to Chelsea because of the presence, the presence which he sort of had in the game. And I know Chelsea were a big club, but 2 times World Player of the Year, George.
Wow.
See when you
He used to come around and sit on my settee.
Were you nervous talking to him?
No,
not at all.
No,
See when
he used to let us speak to him.
Would you make him take his socks and shoes off?
No, it's
You know
not.
somebody else that does that, don't they? See, when you finally left, do you think Zola not were all cheering? They're all buzzing.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
No, Zola's a nice guy.
He wouldn't have done that. I think Vialli would have been. But in fairness to I as I said, I like Vialli. I thought he was a good bloke. You know, deep down, I felt I let him down because whatever anybody said, he invested a lot of money in me. But he thought I was going to be the. No need to yawn.
No. I'm just trying to say, 10 million. What would you say that is in the day's market back then? It's a great question, isn't it? Wow, nearly
What is it, 3
blowing
times?
him off his seat there, isn't
Right.
he? Like Daryl Curry, the way I done that, wasn't it?
Look
What
about
do
Daryl's
you
there.
think? 200 million?
No, but 60?
Well, so hang on a minute. So you've got 60 million.
Well, 10
Where
mil.
did you go to school?
Yeah. The Gaelic.
Is that the one, isn't it?
Couldn't boast about it.
Oh, bro. And when you asked me about one player as well, you mentioned him and you laughed a little and said he was very lively, Dennis Wise.
Yeah.
Would he play, I think, obviously came through Wimbledon Crazy Gang, would he do this similar sort of stuff to these big names, Deschamps, Desai?
He had a presence. He was a good player, Dennis. He was a really good player, underrated, fiery.
What was he good at tackling?
No, that's harsh. I'm telling you, he was a good.
Good player.
He was a
Was
good.
he?
He was
Very
a
good.
good technician.
That's poor actually to say
I mean,
that.
I was just asking.
He had the respect of the dressing room. And Vialli's a very strong character, as you'd probably expect.
Yeah. And what would you pull these sort of players up? Guys that had won World Cups, Dennis Wise would still pull them up if they want to do it?
Yeah.
Would he,
But
right?
why? But I don't necessarily it's played in teams. Everybody's at a different level, but when things are good, when things aren't right, when somebody's not pulling the weight, and you say, don't you?
Do you know the man for me is Zola?
How good genius, isn't he?
But I know he's amazing.
Should have released it earlier at times, but no, he was an incredible technician. Look, the truth is probably, partnering him, he wasn't one. I always played better with somebody who would probably run off me, if that makes any sense. So, the early days at Norwich, Efna Kuku, who was so quick and used to love playing with him. Little flicks, you get the ball, hook it into space. He was that quick to get onto it. Shearer, so more of a sort of striker, where Zola always liked to come to the ball. Clearly, I wasn't the same player as Zola, but I was somebody who my strength was being a focal point. I think I could score goals, but that was what I was, in my opinion, I was quite good at, and what I was utilised at. And maybe, Zola would have been better served with anybody, even you possibly, than me. But somebody had run the other way.
Mate, do you know what
Kuku, Wimbledon striker.
Do you know what I'm very surprised? I'm actually very surprised the way your dad brought you up, and then the Norwich there with the players. How you didn't think I'm going to prove the Chelsea players and manager Ryan
What do you mean?
that you're going to
So
make
you
it at
think
Chelsea?
you just thought he'd have stayed at Chelsea?
Aye,
I could have
because the
done.
way you've been brought up.
I totally understand that, but it's you sit down, you speak, and there was a couple of sort of major issues. One, whether I'd have wanted to stay or not, and the other one, whether the manager wanted to get rid of us.
How did you do in that last week? Sorry, I just picked up on that.
What did I do? What do
You
you
said
mean?
you probably acted unprofessional in the last week.
Not
before you left.
unprofessional. It's just I probably wasn't giving it my all in training or whatever. But anyway, I deserved to get dropped for the cup final. Went and Chelsea won the cup, beat Villa at Wembley, and great for Chelsea. I was a Chelsea player, but when you're on the outside, I never understand. It's sort of subs who celebrate as well. It's good, it's nice, but you're not really. part of the team. It's a bit fake, isn't it?
Yeah, but then the day this man signed for Celtic, you and your dad were running about the living room with your tops off, weren't you?
What a day, big man. And many years they gave us. I've seen him with his tap-off, didn't we? What a time we had.
Yeah. So when did you first hear Celtic?
I met Martin and Neil at a hotel in Beaconsfield. I could have gone to Spurs, could have gone to Middlesbrough. Brian Robson was the manager, and then I met Martin. Martin's funny, well, you know Martin, and he sort of slaughtered us for 5 minutes, but then he was sort of got us on side. He basically just told me how bad I was at Chelsea, but then he'd followed my career closely and sort of admired me. I think he was nearly sick when he said it, and sort of talked about what his thoughts were about Celtic and that they were building, and he was going to, bring players in and, to think about giving it a go. I always liked sort of Martin from afar, and followed it. I used to be a Nottingham Forest fan when I was little, and followed him, and his sort of management path. But I didn't want to stay in London, if I'm honest, because I was getting hammered, by the press, and it was difficult for my wife and my kids, start at school. It was, it's nasty stuff.
What, even in the streets and that as well, Chris?
Yeah, at times it's not
the ground and stuff.
That's not right.
It's not Glasgow, but it's and you have pride. It's not it's not just you who gets affected with it. It's your family. It wasn't nice for them at times. If I'm honest, I mean a woman hammered my kids for she was shopping in London for having my number on the back. Sutton number 9, Chelsea, and then they didn't even wear my fucking shirt after that. The kids.
What, she said something to your kids?
Yeah. Well, she said to my wife, "Why have they got his shirt on for? He's useless."
So they didn't want to wear the tap in him?
And they didn't wear it.
I mean, how bad is that?
They wore George Weir.
They used to bring the kids in. Used to bring the kids into training.
Ah, you said that. Aye, how were they? Lively?
Good players.
Were they?
All right.
Yeah.
They were lively. They were lively kids.
Are they?
They're lively.
Respectful.
I don't know if he thought it was a crash or what's a football.
I don't like that.
If that's how you want to do then. No concerns about going up to Scotland?
No, to be honest, look, the truth is I didn't know a lot about. I knew about Scotland. I knew about sort of the history between England and Scotland and how you're heavily reliant on us.
It's weird because he sticks up for Scotland massively.
I don't really know. That was a joke. Yeah.
You're brilliant.
That was like a Shearer joke there with the fence.
Yeah, that was a so no, but I knew how big Celtic were. Of course, I did. I knew that Rangers had a really good period. But I didn't know how many good players Celtic had. I knew they had Larsson, and I thought Larsson would suit the way I played, if I'm honest, and I could have gone to play with Hamilton Ricard at Middlesbrough. But I thought, after speaking to Martin, I spoke to Brian Robson as well, and they were very nice. They had an incredible setup, Middlesbrough, the training facilities. Yeah. And then I went to look at Barrowfield.
Dog shit or the training.
Loved people it. I did. It was on a slope, wasn't it? I mean, it's a terrible training pitch, but I'd never bothered me stuff like that. And I know everybody's into it and the importance of it and infrastructure, but it's a pitch, isn't it?
I loved Barrowfield.
Yeah.
No, you could see Celtic Park in that from it, couldn't you?
Yeah. No, I really had an affection for Barrowfield. And I just got a good feeling. And of course, Rangers had sort of blown Celtic away and had a good team. But it surprised me. Jos Valhaeren came in, who had a good reputation. But Martin had an amazing sort of knack of moving players around, how he saw things, like his sort of foresight. Petrov was a fat right back, wasn't he? And he moved him into midfield. He gets Didier Agat in eventually from Hibs, who is a striker at Hibs, plays in wing back. And
Bobby Pettiford knew her.
But was Bobby already there? I think Bobby was there, but anyway, he got. I mean, Bobby used to be brilliant in training. He used to it's like a circus pony, wasn't he? Keep the ball up and then catch the ball in the crack of his backside. You pass him the ball out like from kick-off and go under his foot pop. He was brilliant.
He done it for Celtic, didn't he?
That first season of Martin O'Neill, Moravcik I'd never heard of. That was so odd. Because I don't need to tell you how good he was, or any of the Scottish Celtic punters how good Moravcik was. But I used to just think, what is wrong with you?
Why?
Because how could you be that good and nobody had heard of him down south? I honestly used to think, what, because his left foot, right foot, he used to, have that chop back and like the array of goals he scored. He scored like a goal in training, like with the outside of his right foot, like a floaty one, which I went in, it was only past Jonathan Gould, so it didn't count. But it hit the stanchion. And just like jogged off, and anybody else, you'd have ran around the train. Think, how
just on
how
Gould,
can you do that?
Gould, he got it a bit, man.
Did he?
Did cut his gloves once before a game?
I liked him. He lives in New Zealand now. I like him even more.
Oh, he was at West Brom in that for years, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's at Preston. No, he is a good guy.
Here, how Larsson's the one that I'm obsessed with. But you said he was the best trainer as well as the best player, didn't you? No, you didn't say that.
No, he wasn't. You weren't allowed to tackle younger boys.
That's what it was. Younger boys weren't allowed to tackle him. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, we used to have the young v old game every Friday, and they used to be more competitive than like the games on a Saturday sometimes. It used to be fiery. So who were the young?
Is that you?
No,
Kennedy,
like
John Kennedy.
Charlie.
Colin Healy.
John Kennedy was a lunatic. But I mean, he was a sad what happened with his career, because he was a really good prospect.
Yeah.
But his tackling was, it was ridiculous in training. So Friday before, and he'd like come flying. But he was, he's quick, he was strong, but he wouldn't hold back. And Henrik used to, because of course Henrik had his leg broken, didn't he? So Henrik used to wear shin pads, and it used to get really quite sort of nasty. And then Stephen Craigan, like the Tasmanian devil, wasn't he? Craney, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So,
Stephen Craney, yeah.
Yeah, Stephen Craney, yeah.
Colin Healy, was he there? He was quite like that as well, Colin Healy.
Not as bad as Craney.
Yeah.
He used to just,
Craney could tackle.
just like,
What was-
just stand all over. Just leave us alone, Steve. We've got a game tomorrow. Just stop it. But to be fair, they had to train like that. Healy was good. I like.
Healy was a good fan. How did you find that training? Because I always used to look at you as he's never done much, but the standard was so intense. But I'm not talking like, Matt, it would never be like shape or passing drills. It would be games basically, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I always think there's this misconception about sort of Martin, and he wasn't a coach. There's never a time where we went out and didn't know what we were doing. Now, I think that the game has changed, but Martin. So we were quite an experienced team. We had a lot of older players.
Yeah.
And I think Martin understood that. And for example, when Gordon Strachan came in and would do sort of shape in the afternoon at times, that was okay, and I'm not dismissing that. But when you're sort of in your 30s, he used to bore the arse off you, really.
Yeah.
I think that there's a balance. But I can understand that. But I always thought Martin was
he did have such an aura, didn't he?
Did he commit to training, Martin Neil?
Yeah, but that's another one. Just it's just total bollocks. And it's sort of the thing which annoyed me when Martin left and a new regime coming in. I can't remember. I'm not going to name check the players actually, but I do know who it is. That's saying, oh, it's better. Players who'd been there under Martin's regime. Oh, training's better. I used to think you turncoats. You arseholes. I did think that. I think, Martin was a brilliant manager for the club. When you actually think when he went in, how far behind Rangers, Celtic were, and to bring Celtic ahead of Rangers. I know we lost at Motherwell last day, but even where Celtic have been the last 20 years, that a lot of that is down to what Martin O'Neill achieved in the belief and getting the club moving in the right direction again.
Have you ever played with a manager that had such an aura as Martin O'Neill at that time at Celtic?
I think Dalglish had the same.
At Blackburn, did he?
Aura, yeah.
I think when he walked in, it was like silence, mate.
Yeah, and that I like the setup. John Robertson was you boys. John Robertson was such an unbelievable footballer. First and foremost, 2 European Cups, Clough's favourite. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about him. He was a genius, but I always thought Martin needed John. It's funny because when Martin went to Sunderland and things sort of went a bit wrong, John didn't go with him. And so people used to say, well, what does John do? He's good at the crossword. John, and really clever guy.
But he was at Villa when he done well.
Yeah, and he was the go-between. But he was the sort of go-between between the players and the manager. And Martin trusted him. And, they'd discuss the team and whatever. Martin would always have the final say. But Martin used to listen to John. And when he didn't have John, it's interesting how things didn't go quite right there. The trust wasn't there. Steve Walford used to take the training. And he's dry and funny guy, wasn't he? But all this, Martin wasn't there at training. Well, he wasn't there sometimes, but he used to delegate what Steve Walford was doing. That's what a manager does. So I think people look into things, or have looked into things and said things harshly about Martin at times, which aren't particularly fair.
But that was a genius of him, I thought, that he wouldn't have everything. So you weren't constantly hearing his voice. This is just looking fair far. You never heard Martin's voice constantly.
No.
Didn't feel the need to talk all the time.
I think that's a good point. And when Martin spoke and gave you praise, you're like, even like us senior players, you felt good.
What time was that? What time did he praise you? Do you remember?
He did.
I used to be playing the bit. I never heard him get him praised.
He didn't very often. I think I was one of his favourites, in fact. Larson was his big favourite, wasn't it? But,
Would anybody ever challenge Martin O'Neill?
Yeah. Big John challenged him once and Martin just rinsed. The thing is you've got to be you've got to be brave or stupid because he's super smart. He just tie you up in knots.
Would you speak outside football? See, when you were at Celtic, would you ever talk about other things other than football? Because you both seem like quite semi-clever guys.
No, Martin.
Would you ever speak to any of you other than football now?
No, but that's what I liked it because he was aloof. So when I spoke earlier about Ray Harford at Blackburn, as the coach taking over from Kenny, as a coach you build relationships with players. It's more sort of banterish, light-hearted. You speak to players a lot. Martin was never like that. We'd speak before games. Come up to Barrowfield and speak about whatever we did in the session or pull individual players or whatever. And that was that. But I used to like the fact he was aloof. And then when he dressed people down, nobody ever felt that they were his pal. You never knew what he was thinking. He'd be quite strange, Martin, at times where. You'd think it'd come in and say something and sort of set you back, and you think, "Why have you said that for?" Always used to sort of make you think, Martin. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of, a great deal of respect for him, and I still do. But the job he did at Celtic was, phenomenal. Mialbi, another player, midfielder, wasn't he? So couldn't really get about, and then he moved him to a centre. How do you do that?
As well, yeah.
They were animals, free, weren't they?
Goldie, Valhan, and Mialbi.
Yeah. Valharan the first season, I roomed with Joss, and I think I destroyed him within a year.
What would you do?
I used to wake up. We didn't have a double bed. They had a twin bed, and I got another story about that, a bed incident actually.
Okay.
And I used to wake up every morning and say, Joss, I think we're going to get fucking pumped today. And he used to say, "Oh, shut up, Sutton." Eventually, I used to always say that as like lucky omen. If I didn't say that, John Robertson used to go nuts. But I used to say he didn't get me, Joss. He lasted about 3 months,
and then who took his place?
I used to room on my own. I used to love it. Yeah.
Will you take your Larson?
Larson, hey, was I? Yeah. Well, not. Yeah, quite tight. Yeah, we still sort of speak now, and we got on. I mean, when I first went to Celtic, I was obviously aware of him. The Swedes are a funny lot, though, aren't they? They're sort of moody. But just said to him, I think we went to Denmark, saw him on the coach, and just said, I'm here to sort of help you. Try to help you. If I see you in a position, you're in a better position, I'll pass to you, whatever. And from that sort of day, he was as good as gold. And he was a phenomenal player. But the best thing about him was, I always thought, he was so unselfish. He's a brilliant finisher, but he was a great team player. He could play a number of positions and play them well. But he had a great football brain. And while he was very individual. in terms of his sort of goal scoring numbers, and he was the best. But in terms of any strike partnership which I've had, he was the best one. And this isn't a sort of dig at Shearer, but when I was at Blackburn with Shearer, that was when I was 20. By the time I was, at Celtic, I knew my game better. But sort of going onto a pitch with him, playing with him, and playing with Petrov, who had a season or two, he was brilliant from sort of an attacking midfield position.
Arriving late in the box.
We used to talk about, balls going into Petrov. You make sure when the ball's coming into you, you play first time round the corner, and then we'd get close. It doesn't matter who you play against, because you're two centre halves, you're 2v2 really. So if your movement is good and you're doing things, then you're sort of sharp and smart. And that Petrov used to be brilliant at that. He used to have a big arse, and he used to play it around the corner. He had that power where he could follow it, and that was probably the most enjoyable football I think that I'd played in my career, a period at Celtic, with him sort of bombing on, getting beyond, and Larson's movement was
used to
clever.
dominate each other, and that was, remember it is.
Unbelievable. So you enjoyed playing with Larson, Mel and Shearer?
Yeah, but I don't. But that's sort of slightly unfair, because I've said sort of why, and maybe the truth is because I'd had such a bad year at Chelsea, I appreciated football far more. I just I just expected everything to be a natural progression once I'd hit the first team. When I'd had the bad year, that sort of put me on my knees in many ways. So going to Celtic, I really relished what I had. I used to love going into training every day, and the dress. You used to get nervous going in the dressing room more than the training, because of just going on the front foot, because there were so many sort of strong characters in there. So you'd sort of go in and try and hit people early.
Remember, you used to come in with your trousers on, didn't you?
Dirty.
We used to notice that as kids. The bottom of your trousers. Did you live on a farm, mate?
Well, I used to walk dogs. You not heard a dog walking? No, yeah.
You have the wipes to wipe the trousers before you go in there.
That's what apprentices were for. That's what you were.
Adam was saying it to wipe his Prada trousers.
They were never Prada.
Did you play with Lambo?
Yeah.
Did you think Lambo was good? Brilliant.
Good, yeah.
Just good?
Yeah. No, he's good player. Excellent player. Very good player. Yeah. So I'd have played with him for a couple of years. Now, I always thought Paul was a little bit aloof. Never that sort of, again, used to get on with him. But, he's sort of one of the ones where, we've all sort of stayed in touch vaguely since, maybe not so much now, but after. But maybe because of his management and what have you, he was a little bit more sort of aloof and didn't stay in touch as much with some of the guys.
Do you know the genius of Martin O'Neill as well? Had Hartson, Sutton, Larson, only 2 played and all kept all 3 happy.
But the big John came second season, the second season of Martin's reign. I thought, look, the truth is, when I went in, I thought Martin would bump Moravcik. I thought there was a lot who would go, and he was one of them, because I thought, although Martin always liked a maverick, I thought he's not going to run.
Yeah.
But, I've mentioned again, I mentioned Moravcik to some extent, Mialbi, Petrov. These are all players who Martin moulded, and they all had outstanding careers, really. But how can you think? I mean, Didier Regat used to torture. The games against Juventus.
You remember that?
You think,
he was brilliant.
If you watched him in training, you'd think he'd won a raffle to train with you, because he was so bad. But then in Barcelona, he played Ronaldinho and 1v1s, and you'd think, he's done here. And all of a sudden he'd had this big toe, his big boot had come out and toe the ball away.
That's what's really unfair, obviously, when people say Martin O'Neill will be a coach, because that is coaching to making the players, do you know what I mean? Instead of these guys popping about with a million coins and talk about philosophy.
Definitely.
But he could have come in really, and I don't know how, in the end, he spent a bit of money, but he could have cleared the decks, couldn't he? Now that probably wouldn't, have happened, but he still, in a short space of time, bearing in mind that we won a treble the first season, he had to make pretty instant decisions on players.
Yeah.
So how do you, I think that's sort of remarkable, really. Do you think 21 points to turn that round, smash Rangers as we did, and win the cups as well?
Yeah. So you played for Chelsea, played for Blackburn. Were you still nervous going up to Candid in your debut?
Yeah, because I wanted to get off to a good start, really. And that was, you know, I mean, you could have scored that.
You remember the goal?
Unbelievable.
Where
Back
did he
post,
see
back
that?
post header, bang.
No,
Deal with that.
wasn't it?
Not a problem. No,
His feet.
and his feet right fit, wasn't it?
I'm questioning whether you're a Celtic fan at all. As I used to run around the living room with
No,
my dad.
practicing, wasn't it? For the dad.
Was it practicing with John? His brother John, wasn't you? These two are practicing together. Could you believe the fan? What's that word? I never wrote that down. I'm struggling with.
Fantasism with the Celtic fans. Because listen, we all.
Can I just be clear? It's not fantasism, fanaticism.
Fanaticism. There you go. Somebody's helped us. With the fans.
I think fantasies are totally different things.
That's for Saturday.
I don't want to go into.
So, was there anything like the support of Celtic fans?
I don't think so, and that's not being, and that's certainly not being disrespectful to the other clubs which I played at, but just in terms of size of club, it's an incredible city, Glasgow. I mean, it is. I mean, everywhere else I played, you could walk around and people would know you. You know, the odd person would know you, but in Glasgow, everybody, people still come up to us, try and run us over, swear at us in the street.
Sorry about that, we never missed it.
But that's, it is an incredible city. And when things, I mean, we've seen that, as you well know, you see that, the good side when things are going well, there's no better club to be at. But then see what happened last season, how bad things were. And it's a tough place to play. I always used to, think that the wingers had it tough.
Oh.
Used to play central.
Why was it tough with the two strikers like using the box? You think that was tough?
Well, just their crossing mainly, and they used to get slaughtered. Didn't they? You'd hear playing a central area, you can't hear the criticism, but you play wide, and Agat used to get slaughtered.
Yeah.
I never understood McGeady. McGeady used to get it tight, didn't he, at times? And I always used to think, a boy coming up through the ranks, it was quite hard on Aidan, really.
He was
greedy. He was, but he's a brilliant feet and dribbler, and at times he could release the ball. I mean, he's still playing now at Sunderland. I've seen bits of him where he actually passes it. And you used to think, why didn't you pass in training all those years ago? But he's such a talented boy. But it's like, it's a hard place because of the history of Celtic and the expectation, and what the supporters want and the standards which have been set in the past and the great players which have been there. It's a difficult place to play.
So did you enjoy that though? That expectation?
I enjoyed it, but
did you ever find it tough even after the career you'd had?
Only
was there any a stage they were on your back? Was there?
Only when the Bratislava game where Strachan, his first game in charge, and Neil Lennon put his knee through my face, and so I had a quadruple fracture of my cheek.
So
and it was 0-0 when I came off, and they lost 5-0, didn't they? And then. So I'd gone to the hospital, they had an x-ray, my face had caved in, gone back to the stadium to get on the coach to fly back, and all the players are getting pelters as they're walking from the coach, from the stadium just out to the coach. It's only like a 30-yard walk, and there's a lot of Celtic fans there, and they're sort of pissed, most of them, and they're angry, and they're slaughtering all the players. And I'm thinking, well, I'm all right, because it was 0-0 when I came off. And so I walk out, you fucking wanker, your legs are gone, you fuck off, this, that and the other. And I think that's a bit, I wanted to say to him it's a bit harsh, but I thought best not to and just carried on. I was nodding about a lot of what they were saying about the other guys.
But I don't want to forget this. This would have went under the radar and wouldn't even have happened on the show. The double bed story. We never went back and asked about the double bed story.
No, that was with Tomo. That was, so we played Kaunas, I think it's in Lithuania, and we beat them 4-0. I scored a textbook left foot half volley deflection.
Vialli, wasn't it? Straight through Vialli's textbook.
Deflection. And then, so we're on the runway to take off for the way back to Scotland, and all the lads are there. John Robertson was a bad flyer. And anyway, the plane starts to take off. We're going down the runway, and it's going full pelt, and then all of a sudden, it screeches to a halt, and like, this is. But it wasn't that bad, right? But then all of a sudden, you hear this. Everyone's sort of mocking John Robertson. You hear this sort of sobbing, and it was Tomo. Oh, we could have died, and No, we couldn't. And then sort of rumours are going around the plane. Oh, I need to phone the family and all that. And I thought, come on, Tom. And so anyway, it's bad. So whatever happened, I don't know. There's a gauge which was broken or whatever. And the big rumour was, had we taken off, would have all been for it. I don't know whether that was true or not, but that was the rumour. So Tomo's he's
justified.
Well, I don't know whether it's justified, or over the top or whatever. So anyway, we don't try and retake off. We have to get another plane for the following day. So we go back to the hotel. We had to book another hotel. They used to look after us pretty well, but we're sort of like in Faulty Towers in Lithuania, back to wherever we were staying. And so, all the lads are a bit shaken. So we go in the bar, have a few drinks. I think Tomo has about 6 pints of Lithuanian rocket fuel. And I'm rooming with him, and the beds are so close together, and it's hot. It's really hot. It's really hot. So I think I was sleeping in my boxer shorts. Tomo's not sleeping in anything. So get into bed, no sort of sheet. He's got no sheet. And then all of a sudden, sort of I'm nodding off. It's about 20 minutes late to hear this thud. And so Tomo's fallen out of bed. And the next thing, he gets into bed with me, puts his arm around me and starts spooning me. And we lay like that until morning, and then we got up and had breakfast together. No, he didn't. I jumped up. What the fuck?
You don't see where things weren't going well. He used to do that. Was it you and Tom that used to do the circus noise?
I think a bit of that, yeah.
All right, we're on to Celtic and Rangers games.
This one, and usually I'm no rang ever, size, don't you? Never ever rang, and I know this is going to be your favourite game ever, the 6-2 game. How special was that, mate?
Yeah, I mean that was good. I mean, Rangers were good.
Who was good in the Rangers team?
We knew that.
Ferguson, that.
Well, Ferguson, Rayner was a good player. I think Van Bronckhorst. I always thought Arthur Newman was a really excellent player. And, they had a good team. Rod Wallace would have been playing for them, I think, in the 6-2. Billy Dodds was, decent footballer, goal scorer. Amaruso, Bert Conterman, and a good keeper. But they were going well, we were going well. The truth is nobody expected us to beat them in the manner which we did. That was the most incredible 15 minutes, 20 minutes of my career, really. I mean, not just a goal. The goal was important, and anybody could have scored that. Truth is, and I was actually offside, I think, with the goal. I was offside, and that was probably the last decision which Celtic have had against Rangers.
What was better atmosphere, the Celtic and Rangers games or the European games?
That's difficult to say. That was, I mean, it was the first game of the season, and there was I'll say I was nervous. I think probably was, but there was like a, wouldn't say undercurrent's the wrong word, but there was an atmosphere there where you knew it was sort of tense, really tense. So the start's important, and then Stillian scores a really good controlled header of the second goal, watched it really well, albeit it was free. Then Paul Lambert scores the third, and you think, God, incredible sort of start. But we knew they were good as well, and then they I think they had a goal chalked off, or they get back into it. And we weren't sure at sort of half time, but then I can't remember the way I did. So it went, was it 3-1? I can't remember whether it went 3-2 or whatever. But Larsson scores his goal where he sort of jinks past four, and that's where he was just a cut above the rest. Larsson, you know how difficult it is. Ball running away from you in that situation. It's a big game. It's an enormous game, an enormous moment. The ball's running away, and then he like scoops it over. That's a ridiculous skill. You think you've got to be an idiot to do that, or a genius. There's nothing in between, and he could do that a lot. Yeah. How to have the sort of audacity to do that was incredible. But what was good about what was good about that is, I know all the fans are happy after the game, and of course we're happy, but Martin was good. And nothing. You done nothing, and that's good. And he still went, the whole season, even though when we knew we'd won it, Rangers are the benchmark. Rangers are just smart, pressure off, and because they beat us 5-1 at Ibrox, the following one, so we knew they were a good side. I know we didn't like them. We didn't have to like them. We don't like Rangers players if you play for Celtic, but we did respect them. They're a good team. Some good players.
European Cup, Champions League.
Did you feel
first
that?
Year?
I mean, how special it is to play at Celtic Park in the Champions League, but did you also feel there was an opportunity to show the teams down south and the punters down there? Nah.
No, I know why you're asking that, but I wouldn't know how to say this really, but it didn't bother me. I was disappointed with what happened at Chelsea, but I'd had a good career. Yeah. I didn't really, honestly, I don't care. I didn't care. I don't care what people think of me. I don't care what people think of me and my career now and look back. And that's, some people will say, well, it was, average. Some people say it was excellent. The most important thing to me is I know sort of how good or bad I was, and I know how other players think of me. And I'm not saying that in a big-headed way. I'm saying that when that's the most. But that's not to dismiss what other people think. But I know what went on because I was there. I know good. I know what my strengths were. I know what my weaknesses were, and I used to try and hide my weaknesses. But I was a lucky boy to come from what I was. I wasn't part of the system to suddenly go into playing top-level football, First Division football, Premier League football, and have the career which I had. But I had weaknesses.
Wait, did Larsson say you're his favourite player to play with?
Yeah, I think he did. I think that's been said before.
That's a nice thing for that's a lovely thing for someone of his sort of the players he's played with, for him to say that.
How close was that team to qualifying for the group stages for the Champions League? It just felt always just missed out on it. Was it Juventus, the Amoruso diving there?
The ref cheated. The ref cheated.
Martin was raging that night, wasn't he?
That's bad, yeah. But I mean, what I liked about our team, we weren't daft. We were streetwise, but we knew we could get walloped. But we knew if we sort of all turned up, we could beat anybody really. Yeah. And that was what was was good. And that was one. And that was really unfortunate what happened there. I mean, Martin was right. And there were other occasions where we came close. Magnus Edmund let one in from 75 yards in Leon, didn't he? And then,
who was that, Leon?
Yeah, Leon.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then,
he was too busy doing karate moves, wasn't he?
And then Bobo punched the ball. But, I don't know, Bayern Munich, Magnus Edmund sold the pies. There's a theme.
Well, what's the angriest you've seen Martin O'Neill? Can you remember an instance in a dressing room?
The angriest? I remember he tore Rab Douglas to shreds one half time for about 12 minutes and thinking,
12 to 15.
How's he going to play second half? But I don't know. But Rab, I liked Rab. But it's one of those. Whether you think it's the right thing or not. The same rules really applied for everybody other than Henrik.
Yeah. Did you ever get to film proper?
Only when I'd been out for about 6 weeks and I played in, I can't remember, was it the under-21s or?
Yeah, the reserves are here. Down with the scum. You used to say to Kenny, you're wasting your time with that lot, Kenny.
Yeah. But so Kenny was manager and I think we were at, I tell you who played in that game, De La Pena.
Oh, he was on trial, that's right. I remember him. Good player, wasn't he?
So I can't remember where it was. It was Hamilton or?
Airdrie maybe would be.
Would it?
We used to play the reserve games at Airdrie.
Was it Airdrie? So was Airdrie.
The boxes,
Clyde,
the manager used to sit in the boxes.
Yeah. So he'd half time. I mean, it wasn't a great game, and to be honest, I hadn't done that badly. And I'm not saying I'd done that well, but it was an awful game. Not a big fan of Airdrie, and he came in at half time, and Martin came in and took over from Kenny. Said, "I want to speak," and just slaughtered the whole dressing room. And he said to me, and you've got to hold the ball in better. He said, your link up play sloppy. I said, what game are you watching? And he's like, what, Kenny? Take him off. So I got taken off. I had to go and see him in his office later on at the park. And he gave me a cricket ban for the summer. Didn't let us play cricket in the summer.
Oh, that's brilliant, that. Yeah. Right, UEFA Cup run.
I think this has got to be the best since I've been a Celtic fan.
Best
year, best season. Was that your favourite? I think I'm going to say that's your favourite part of your career. That UEFA Cup run. Because the teams you beat, mate, was unbelievable.
But they'll also say they never won it as well. I know, but they might not.
But the sort of that whole sort of Champions, the European nights were special. The Rangers games were special. The European nights. I mean, some of the teams we played against, some of the teams we defeated were. I mean, it was incredible. Juventus. I think we only lost one game, didn't we, at home in Europe, and that was against Barcelona. When Larson came back, Henrik came back and scored.
Remember, beat Barcelona. Tomo scored.
Tomo, yeah, and we knocked him out of the UEFA. That was the UEFA, wasn't it? Yeah. We knocked him out of it.
That's right.
And then he's come up the tunnel in the new camp after the UEFA goes, like shouting at Ronaldinho, "Not so fucking good now, are you?"
That's right. Did you about what?
It wasn't him just thinking that. Well, why are you saying that?
See, on that, what you've just said, was it surprised to be knocked out by Basel, the Champions League that year?
Do you know what?
They were a good team, weren't they?
They were a good team. They were, and we conceded, didn't we? Conceded. It's not every game I can remember, but we conceded really early, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we actually won the game 3-1, and then over there, they were decent. They were good, and then I had a chance at the end. It wasn't a great chance where I'd tried to bend it in the far corner. It had gone narrowly past the post. That was a big deal losing that.
Yeah.
Because we sort of felt we should have beaten them, but they were good, and fair play to them. But I remember Dermot Desmond was actually at the game, and he wasn't, didn't come to loads of games. So there was a lot on the game, and of course the money which would have come to it. But just the fact that I think we all felt massive disappointment because under Martin we felt we could have done okay in the Champions League.
Yeah. Just thinking, Blackburn was the first game of the UEFA Cup run, wasn't it?
Yeah, we played another. I think Saduva or someone like that. We beat them 8-1.
Right. That was the first big game.
And then they sent 2-0 away. I think they sent.
Was that the game? Souness came out and said it was men against boys, didn't
that's the one.
Can you remember him saying that and
motivating yourself? Not actually at the time, but yeah, after the.
Did you use that to motivate yourself?
No,
not really.
No, because this is just an idiotic thing to say.
I know.
I mean, it's like anything. When you play well, when you play badly. We didn't play well. You're at the game. They played us off the park really as like a keep ball, and they had two guys. I think David Dunn.
Damien Duff,
Damien Duff. Was it Cole? Andy Cole might have been.
Yeah, I think Andy Cole was it.
They were a good team, but we were sort of resilient. We were edgy, didn't create many opportunities, and guess what? Guess who scored at the end? Set piece, and we were good. That we always had that in our locker. Set pieces, important part of the game. We had a big team. I mean, all the daft bastards used to mark us tall ones, and Henrik was the best header of the ball out of everyone. His standing jump was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Was that a wee front post header, wasn't it?
I think there's a knock, and he anyway, however it got in, it was close range. So we're 1-0, I think, coming off, and I don't think Martin really dug us out after. I think he was, okay, and we've won ugly, hadn't we? And then soon as said that, Gary Flitcroft, who I'd played with at Blackburn, had said the same thing. And the truth is what a really stupid thing to say. Daft thing to say, because whether you use that as a motivation, hang it on the dressing room wall, we didn't do that. We were more disappointed in ourselves that we didn't play well. So, going down there, we just
Did you battle them second leg?
Yeah, we. This was a tactical Martin who wasn't a tactician according to some. So the second leg was what had happened. I think in the first game is two guys, a good player.
Yeah.
Turkish, as a quarterback, dictated the play, and then second game, so we were 3-5-2, and basically I was given the job of sort of not letting him get his head up. So let the other centre halves have the ball. If they're on the ball, fine, but don't let him play. So I just basically just sort of rashed him all game. Every time he got the ball played backwards, every time he got anywhere near him, just attach yourself there. And Big John and Henrik played up top. Henrik scored one of his scoops early on, and I mean there were so many Celtic fans behind the goal. I think there was like 7,000 or 8,000. There was a bit of trouble at that game as well, I think. And you know, I remember them just they were pissed, a lot of them, and then they scored off the corner. And I like Blackburn. I really liked as a club, but the Souness comments was, he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
You know, I like listening to him on the telly, but that just it was a daft thing to say because you know basically he knew we weren't that bad.
Yeah.
We knew we weren't that bad, and you know you get egg on your face.
Yeah. And the other part, best game of the run for me.
Was that goal? Would you say goal of the tournament, Hartson's? No.
Hartson's brilliant.
Right,
I didn't play that. I didn't play that.
Kings on.
Did you not?
No, because I played the first leg where we drew 1-1. And then Bobo Baldi broke my wrist, and I went up for a header and I shot Chris's ball and Bobo wasn't listening and landed on my back and snapped my fucking wrist, and I was in a lot of pain. He just looked at me, he's like, "What are you doing?"
Go there.
So, yeah, what are you doing? So I missed that game. And
Did you watch it in the stand? Did you go down to it?
No.
For the return line?
No, watched it from. I mean, it was an
You and George
incredible
Mayer
night.
watch it now?
No,
Was away by that point?
he was president by then, so he was watching it with George Bush, I think.
Are you the type that, be honest, when Celtic won that game, would you
You're
jump
legend.
up and loving it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would.
Because you know you speak about the rivalry, and look, I'm English, but we used to take great pride in the games against the English teams. And there's a big deal for, you know, Scottish football. And, you know, I don't like it. Still today, you know, you get this crap. You know, we all know the difference between the Premier League down south and the money they get and the resources Scottish clubs get. And, you know, so it's a good product. But we had, you know, it was good that era because even like the pre-season games, we used to go down every pre-season before we flew to America and spank Fulham. You know, we used to love that. QPR beat them 7-2. You know, and these are, you know, good teams. We used to, you know, go and rattle them. We had the Manchester United game where they'd come up. That was Tommy Boyd's testimonial, and they kicked the shit out. I remember watching from the stands, and then when we went down to Old Trafford and beat them 4-3.
Was that Giggs' one?
That was the Giggs. That was the Beckham slap, and that was
Who slapped Beckham? You?
yeah. But that we decided.
Why did you slap him?
Because me and Lenny was the first one to slap him, and I got there first. But that was a nasty game. That was it was good. It was, you know, it was good. It was good. I think 15,000 Celtic fans went down, and so we're going down on the coach. You know, most of them. He's a good-looking guy, wasn't he, Beckham? He gets on our nerves. So first one to slap him.
A semi-final. Boavista.
But can I say just before you say that, Simon? Was there at any point in that run, it clicked and think we could actually go all the way here?
Well, the Boavista game was the problem, wasn't it? You know, it's not that doesn't sound, that sounds sort of slightly disrespectful, but they weren't a well-known Portuguese club. Mm-hmm. You know, it's at so it had Blackburn, Celta Vigo were a good team. Big John's goal over there, which he took really well. I think that's the first time Celtic had gone beyond Christmas in a European competition. That was a big deal. Then and then Liverpool. At Stuttgart as well, Bonnie Tyler playing in the stadium before kick-off. I remember feeling so adrenaline pumped up there.
Was Bonnie Tyler total clubs to heart?
Yeah, holding out for a hero as well.
Imagine
that. Imagine your goosebumps.
I'm holding
there.
out for a hero till the end of the night.
You not heard that one? No?
Scooter man, like. Scooter. It's not really my type of stuff.
Boys on it, like boys on.
Do you remember, see when Larson scored the goal with Boavista away, do you remember all the motors going by Celtic Park driving the scarves, not it? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Me and the family were doing
You
that.
and your dad.
Me and the dad.
What did he score a header?
Was there a party on the plane on the way back after that, Boavista? Would Martin be one for celebrating? Or was it?
Yeah, I think so. I can't really. I remember getting back to Glasgow Airport and there being thousands of punters. I mean, it was really special. I think sitting here now, thinking about it, it's an amazing time. And there's only Larson who would, don't care what anybody said. He was the only one capable of scoring that particular goal in that particular moment. There's another scoop, wasn't it? He didn't really get. It was about getting the shot off quickly and catching the keep. Yeah, So I'd gone, because I played with a plaster cast. So I'd gone on as my first game back. And gone on, and then that come to last. And I mean, that was what the truth is. That'd have been a massive disappointment to go out to Boa Vista with the greatest respect.
After who you'd beaten as well.
Yeah.
Was that the year that you went and played centre mid and centre half at times?
Yeah, well, I'd play as a sort of 10 or wherever.
You used to say,
you
just go play centre half because I can.
Yes, because I can, and I did. To be honest, I didn't. I wasn't that precious. I liked Martin. I had a lot of respect for him. Would I have rather played up front? Yeah. Of course I would. But in the end, you play where you put, don't you? Really, and that's that. You can't go and sort of challenge him for playing Henrik or John. Or John.
And then
started Mourinho.
Mourinho. Did you know much about Mourinho?
We knew he was a bright young manager, and that they were a good team. Ferreira, Carvalho. I think the other big centre half, George Costa, was it Deco? Manish, Deco. They're a good team. I mean, sort of looking back, what we didn't like is their antics, and I know a lot of Celtic supporters still feel that. I mean, that frustrating is a generous way of putting it. We felt wronged, we felt cheated, but you can say what you like. In the end, they're the ones with the trophy, and they're a good team. And they won the Champions League next season. But you get there, and the whole occasion, and the Celtic fans. I mean, it was phenomenal. You go to a game, and you get 100 yards away from the stadium, and you see a lot of fans. And I mean, it was like mile after after mile going to the stadium. And then the expectation was big. And then I felt sorry for Henrik more than anybody, really. I think his goals, incredible headers, and then what happened, and it is whatever anybody says. It's a collective. We had the opportunity, we didn't take it. Great memories, and not just that game, but that whole era under Martin in Europe. That's probably the most exciting. If I went back through my career, they would be the years which I'd want to relive. Really.
Was Billy Connolly and Rod Stewart there at the hotel before the game?
I can't remember.
There's
a few big hitters. George wanted to jump on the bandwagon at that time.
They weren't there at Livingston away. You're
a big Celtic fan. Yeah, come and watch us at Stranraer in the cup.
I think John Hartson was missing for the final as well.
Yeah.
Do you think he'd have been a big difference?
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, the truth is about John is he wasn't particularly mobile. He was a brilliant finisher, a really brilliant finisher, very natural finisher. Had that outside of the right boot in his locker, he wasn't mobile, but you play to his strengths, and you think whether he'd have started the game or come on, he would have given us that physicality, that aerial presence, not just aerial presence. Goal scored at Ibrox. Big Johnny had that ability. He used his body really well. Had that little yard to get away from people. So, no doubt, that was a big miss.
But so I just want see just hours before the game, were you feeling sick? Anything else? No.
I wouldn't say sick. I used to get nervous. I don't know how you were in your career, but I used to get nervous more when I was younger. I used to really like adrenaline on the. I used to go and sit with John Robertson and just drink loads of coffee all day. That's
so would you never go for a sleep or?
Used to get up in the morning and sort of drink loads of coffee, then sort of go and try and sleep, nod off, and then have more coffee. And
what would you sit and chat with John Robertson about? Purely football, huh?
Yeah, just about life in general. No, he was. I used to like him. He was a big influence. Yeah, he used to like a smoke. But you talk about careers and knowledge and knowing players. He was one. He was an integral part of that whole Celtic era. Really underrated.
He used to join in training, didn't he?
Yeah, he used to. People should Google his career and the goals he scored. Scored the goal with Scotland when they beat England at Wembley. Massive courage as a player he had.
I liked Walford as well. Walford
was
just
funny,
as young
wasn't
boys used to ping your boys all the time. Walk by and ping your boys.
He did my boys with the old fake poo in the treatment room. So I was like, I started to cry, little George.
So lost that final, heartbreaking, and then we got that final day of the season. Celtic win 4-0 at Kelly, and Rangers beat Celtic 6-1 at Dunfermline. You remember his interview after the game?
I can't remember it, but I can remember it was something you blamed Dunfermline, was it? Along those lines?
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly.
I said what everybody was feeling.
Did you know you were going to say that? Did it just come? Yeah.
No, well, this is what a bunch of arseholes I was playing with. Because after the game, everybody's saying it in the dressing room. I get wheeled out for the interview, and the referee I think it was Kenny Clark. So I'm waiting to do the interview, and I call him every name under the sun. Kenny Clark, he's out for a warm-up, and he sends me off. He says there's a red card. And I'm still waiting to do the interview, and he comes back in as a really short, it's a warm down, not a warm-up, because the game had finished. So he's coming back in from his warm down, must have been a brief one, and I call him every name under the sun again. So he gives me another red card. Then I do the interview, reflecting what the feeling in the dressing room was, because there was the feeling. And look, do I regret saying it? At the time I said what I thought, and then I got myself into a shitload of trouble after, and sort of legal actions and people calling up, and I knew I'd be all right because I had the back of all the guys in the dressing room, not a fucking jot.
Thanks, big man.
We didn't say that. So look, it was what it was. I'm not, Do I have to say sorry? Am I sorry? I probably shouldn't have said it, but that's the way I felt. Yeah, and that's the issue with interviews is everybody likes to, work in the media now as you do, but people like emotion at the end of games. You know how fired up you can be at the end of games, and when things happen and you're not quite thinking clearly, or you are thinking clearly, but it's the way you feel, and that's the way I felt. So I'm not, do I regret it? Probably for all the sort of legal threats I got, but not. That's what I said at the time.
Yeah. I want to know just quickly about Larsson's departure. Did you all know he was going to leave?
Yeah.
Did he come and tell you as a group? Are we
I can't remember. We knew he'd done 7 years in the end, I think. It's difficult because you're losing your biggest hitter, the guy who sort of bailed you out every week, and it's never going to be the same again. Yeah. So there's that sort of hollow feeling. But no, you can't. Nobody could begrudge him that. I always liked the fact that he shoved two fingers up to everybody. Scottish football. Oh, you can do it for Scottish League. Scored goals at international level. Didn't really get the recognition for that. Scored goals, Champions League level, European level. Didn't people? There was still this sort of feeling. Oh well, it's Scottish football. Went to Barcelona, won them the Champions League final. Then went to Manchester United when he was done, essentially. And the Manchester United fans love him. He was brilliant for them, and that was at the end of his career. Just imagine had he gone in his prime, which he was at Celtic. But he was how can you replace him?
Yeah.
Was Helicopter Sunday the worst day of your career?
No, it was bad. But again, you can look back. We got what we deserved in the end. It is what it is. I felt for Martin because we knew that was his last game. Mm-hmm. It was incredible how we lost it. We had chances. We didn't take them, and that's that was the long and the short of it. And I think Bellamy had a couple of good opportunities. He was good player. Craig was. I like Craig. He used to annoy a lot of people, and sort of people knew he was one people would question his sort of attitude. He had a brilliant attitude to the game. Looked after himself. Had a knee issue. Would always come in early and do his work and make sure he was all right. And he sort of had a form of Tourette's in many ways. He just used to say what he thought, and people used to get offended. And a lot of people didn't like him for that, but I didn't mind that because he always used to sort of put it in himself.
He was brilliant at Celtic, wasn't he?
Martin O'Neill, see when that happened, helicopter Sunday, you knew Martin O'Neill was leaving. Was it kind of in the back of your head, this could be my time up as well? Or were you ready to go again under a new manager?
I thought I played well that season. So no, I don't know. Because I still had a year left, and I'd had the option of another year. I'd signed a new deal at Celtic, so no, I never wanted to leave Celtic. Not even when Strachan came in. So, I was happy carrying on. Everybody's aware new manager comes in, new ideas, new methods. That's fine. I didn't have necessarily an issue with Gordon up until the first day.
What happened then?
Up until I injured my cheek. It was a bad injury.
Yeah, did you not eventually retire for that?
Yeah. And in the operation, they mess around. They're going through the eye and side of your head, and so my vision was impaired, and that wasn't good. And we sort of had a disagreement about that. He didn't really bother his backside with us, and didn't speak to us much. And then I was sitting upstairs one day, and I was angry with him, and he hadn't spoken to us, and he came up, and I can't remember who was there. I think Tomo might have been there, whatever, and I'm eating soup, and he was talking to me. And he started to say something to us and try and joke, and I just ignored him and just carried on eating my soup. And then he said something else, and then Tomo was like laughing and stuff. But I just thought, I can ignore him. I'll just carry on ignoring him. Anyway, Gary Pendry came upstairs, and he left. Gary Pendry, his assistant, came up and said he wants to see you in his office. So I went down, and we just sort of had a conversation. He said, "What was up with you upstairs? Ignoring me, it's not on." I said, "Well, you ignored me for 6 weeks. Bad injury. He said, I called you." I said, "You didn't?" He said, "I called you." I said, "You didn't?" He said, "I did call you." I said, "Well, you say you did, but you didn't." And in the end, we sort of agreed to disagree because he didn't call me. And then there, we got on. It was fine after that. And then there was my contract, which I had at Celtic, I'd signed, and if I was good enough, then I'd sign the same terms. It was basically like that. So I'd signed it was a rollover of what the terms were for the next season. So he sort of pulled us in before Christmas and said, "We want to change the terms of your contract." I said, "Well, that's not a problem. If you want me to leave, then I'll leave. But if you want me to stay, then they are the terms." He said, "Well, you've been injured a lot." I said, "Well, it's not a great deal I could do about Neil Lennon putting his knee through my face. I was out for a long time, and I think I pulled my hamstring as well, so I was out for that. And so they wanted to do it more on appearance. And in the end, we just sort of fell out, and I felt I didn't want to leave, and I felt that I was wronged in that sort of instance, and that was. I didn't want to leave Celtic, but I really, big enough. I just wish he would have said, if you're good enough, stay. They're the terms. This was the deal. That was the contract which I signed. If not, go. It's no sort of hard feelings in that. I just wish he'd have been more upfront with it. But it's like that was a long time ago, and I see Gordon now, and I get on well with him as long as I agree with everything he says, and that's that. But these things happen. He had his reasons. If he, it was. I didn't want to leave. My wife was settled. My kids loved Scotland. They had a Scottish accent. So I didn't want to leave, and I ended up going out the sort of side door. Saw John Clark, went out, and that was sort of me done.
John Clark. We mentioned John Clark. Thought, what a guy.
Yeah.
Was John Clark there when you were there?
Aye. What a guy. But I hate that. I think when certain players happened recently with somebody as well. Can't remember who.
No, but to be fair,
Scott Brown a wee bit.
It is what it is. You don't want a fanfare. There's just. I'd given a lot to the club. The club had given me a lot. The club, you can argue, saved my career. Well, it was Martin, in many ways. And it was a bad way to end. I was lucky to play for a club. And you mentioned John Clark, but, you sign for a club and you tap into, the history. Billy McNeil, John Clark was about, Bertie Auld.
Yeah.
A lot of the old guys. So it was great to be part of the whole thing, and then for it to end as it did over a contract wrangle. But things don't end as you want. That's life, and so we just parted ways, and I went and took Birmingham City down.
Chris Sutton.
What a man.
Thanks very much, big guy.
Thank you. Cheers.